Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to our latest superhero spotlight session. With me today is Alex Reddish, CCO of Tribe Payments. Alex, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you. Enjoying the sun and being back at work after a nice week with the family for half term. So yeah, great to be
Fantastic.
here.
Half time with the kids. What's not to like, eh?
Yeah, it's nice to be back at work.
Yeah, absolutely. Fathers of a certain age. So
Yeah.
anyway, look, we're not here to talk about the trials and tribulations of parenthood. We're here to talk about Tribe Payments and fintech. Why don't you tell us a little bit about Tribe to get us
Yeah,
started, get us
thanks.
warmed up?
So we're a technology company focused on the payment space. Just over 3 years old now. So we were born out of, I guess, the fintech boom, with a view that we could effectively evolve some of the back end infrastructure to mimic some of the innovation that we see from some of your partners and some of our industry peers. So at our product level, we're focused on both the issuing and acquiring space. I think the opportunity to transcend multiple parts of the payments ecosystem was really important to us. Um, we're a little over 115 people across 3 offices. Um, just hit our 50th client, so we're in a real stage of growth and working with partners like yourselves and Tink to try and bring innovation to the boring side of payments.
Excellent. And as a digitally native, relatively young processor, many people, previously myself included, would look at Tribe mistakenly as an issuer processor only. But of course, you're acquiring as well, aren't you?
Yeah, so I think we've added to that misconception a little bit, but we're looking to correct that, I think. But yeah, so we started with our issuing processing system in 2019 and added our acquiring system at the latter end of that year. So we've built a number of products that sit in that space. Our foundational product is our acquiring processing, which works alongside Visa, MasterCard, UnionPay, and JCB, ultimately for the benefit of the acquirer. I think we can talk about that a little bit, but we've seen a real focus on innovation on the consumer side of the payment, but not necessarily on the acceptance side of the payment. And then we've coupled that with a point of sale product and a gateway. And our recent sort of work in open banking is sort of evolving what payment acceptance looks like in the acquiring space.
So it occurs to me that there's been a fair amount of innovation on the issuing side, as you say, not just in
Yeah,
processing, but on the issuing side as well. And the consumer experience has been transformed. You just got to look at what the likes of Revolut et al. Have done.
yeah.
But I think you're right. I think there's probably a bit of innovation to come and a bit of exciting change coming in the acquiring side. What changes do you see coming there? Where do you see the opportunity?
I think you can take a lot of the focus of what issuing or consumer facing products has done and apply it to the acquiring side of the business. So the hyper personalization, the security, the immediacy, data centricity are all elements that a merchant or an end user requires, irrespective of what part of the ecosystem they're playing in. So I think from our perspective, you can go and use an incumbent ISO 8583 messaging type and real archaic product, or you can use a JSON based native business. I think that gives you the opportunity to deliver value and an experience. And I think Tribe tends to look at how we can operate from the solution up as opposed to sort of the product down. And so when we look at acquiring processing, for example, it's about analytics, it's about dynamic routing for multiple bin types, it's about how you deliver merchant information and analytics to benefit them. So I think it's based on the fundamental technology that you use that allows you to then deliver a better experience to the end merchant or the end user, depending on the circumstance.
And asking for a friend, acquiring as a service. What does that really mean?
Yeah, so I think ultimately it's the ability to I think you look at acquiring and it's relatively commoditized. It's a very benign product in terms of what it delivers functionally, and the idea is that it becomes much more interactive, transactional. So we see acquiring as a service as the sort of ability to interact with a technology company and an acquirer in a more ad hoc sort of modular way. So it's less of a lifetime marriage and more of a sort of short-term commitment as you sort of iterate and grow product. across that. So I guess it's a bit of a convoluted answer, but I think the ultimate answer is just a relationship that allows you to benefit from newer product in the acquiring space, both from a technical and regulatory standpoint.
So let's just drill down that a little bit more. So as a consumer making a payment to a merchant that's running on Tribe acquiring services, what is the benefit to the cardholder? What am I going to see different to, say, I don't know, a more traditional, an experienced through a more traditional acquirer?
I think there's a couple of things. I think to the consumer, you are somewhat at the behest of your issuing bank. So the ability to deliver real-time analytics is ultimately attributable to the other side of the ecosystem. But what you do have from a Tribe perspective is different avenues or channels to pay. So we've embraced open banking. We've done a lot of work around payment initiation with our partners at Tink, and conversations that we'll have around FX and things like that. I think the ability to use card-based payments, banking-based payments, alternative payment methods, and open banking delivers ubiquity in terms of what I as a consumer choose to pay with. And merchants ultimately do not want to be seeing basket dropout or failed transactions due to lack of payment availability. I think then from a merchant perspective, it comes down to real-time bin dynamic routing. So we don't want to pay more for our transaction if we don't have to. So why should we be behest at just a single avenue of processing that authorization? Things like that are really important to the merchant as they're looking at slimmer margins and a more operational cost. But then again, we have our own proprietary 3D Secure. We have our own data-centric fraud engine. So in terms of the risk and the security that we deliver, both to the acquirer and obviously then to the benefit of the merchant, we believe we've got a real head start on the market. And then ultimately it comes back to then the analytics that you obtain through all of that. So then how do you establish where you should be focusing your time as a merchant on whether it's product, whether it's payment type, whether it's currency? All of these things need to be discussed and evaluated and iterated against. And you don't want to wait for a weekly or bi-weekly or monthly report to make those decisions. You want to be an iterative, innovative business. And I think, frankly, therefore, you need to work with partners that allow you to do so.
Okay, interesting. You've mentioned this a couple of times, actually, open banking and bank payments. Again, another side to Tribe that people wouldn't necessarily appreciate is you have an open banking play. What role does open banking play in merchant payments?
Well, I think you mentioned Revolut earlier, and I believe they have a very clever system as to how they route acquisition of payments depending on their load value. So if we take the basic principles of a card-based payment, it's interchange plus. You're paying variable costs depending on the size of the transaction. Open banking allows a fixed price value proposition, which means that at a natural ATV, there is an economic benefit to using an open banking transaction versus a card-based transaction. So actually, the ability to deliver an economic or operational payment to our merchants is important to us. But I think that even moving beyond the payment initiation functionality, when you start to get into confirmation of payee, we're not just talking about in-store payments here, we're talking about e-commerce. And if you can start to verify payees before funds happen, if you can start to anticipate spend limits and transactional information, I think that's where open banking becomes open finance, becomes open life. And, there's many a podcast or discussion we could have on that. But I think I think the point is, for us, open banking allows us to evolve what is a general acquisition of funds.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, actually. Obviously, the card schemes and the interchange and the cost that permeates through card transactions is one of the reasons that open banking. Yeah, well, is one of the reasons that many people got excited about open banking in the first instance. Is it prevalent? I certainly haven't seen anything from a merchant perspective in terms of being able to pay at a point of sale through an open banking mechanism. Certainly not that I've noticed, anyway.
No,
Is it quick enough? Because effectively it's faster payments, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly that. So in the UK, obviously, you have the benefit of faster payments. There are some, I'm going to say, some unsolved complexities in Europe, whereby obviously within a faster payment you have the ability to verify that the payment has been initiated. So you effectively then, using scheme rules, have a guarantee of settlement. So from a merchant's perspective, you're then comfortable, much like you have the arbitration and the card scheme rules to give you that comfort to let Steve walk away with his coffee. That balance of sort of trust can be there in the UK. When you get away from instantaneous payments in Europe, that becomes a bit more complex. And do I think we're there in a card present environment? Not quite. If I'm honest, I think e-commerce presents a much greater opportunity in the short term. I think what we're excited about in terms of open banking is that the past pandemic, and we've done well not to talk about it for the first 11 minutes of this discussion.
You had to go and ruin it, didn't you?
Yeah, has meant that people are very conscious of their cost base, and so I don't think the end of the discussion is that it's not quite applicable today. I think it's about how we find a happy medium that suits both the customer and the merchant. I mean, the argument I have against open banking, even though we're huge advocates, is I, as a consumer, need a tangible reason to move away from the products I use today. And there is merchant benefit for me moving away, but not necessarily consumer benefit. And I think the evolution of open banking in the card present world will be finding a way to benefit the end user such that they make that switch. It's like CAS all over again, but for payment types.
Yeah, well, the merchant's got to make it interesting for the consumer, haven't they? But realistically,
exactly,
how do they do that?
Where's that margin? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So look, you've opened Pandora's box, so I'm going to dive on in. So how was the pandemic for you as a business? It's on the face of it, you'd imagine processors would have seen a reduction in transaction count. How did it impact you?
Yeah, I mean, you would expect so. I think the age of our business helped. I think we didn't have a raft of business live. So whilst that obviously doesn't drive the revenue you would like, it allowed us to be a bit more introspective. I think we grew extremely quickly through 2020 and then, well, through the first parts of 2020 at least, and then realized that we needed to sort some operational stuff out internally. I'm not going to pretend we're a perfect business, and so I think actually allowing us to take a step back and work on implementation processes and how we manage customer success properly, and actually we need a digital marketing focus as well as a in-conference marketing focus. All of these sort of opportunities to evolve led us to becoming a teenager. I mean, I think you'll see a brand new website pop out in the next couple of days as we kind of embrace life as a teenager. And I think it allowed us to make sure that we could scale and survive the hopefully impending growth.
I'll refrain from making the associated teenage jokes. So okay, so well, in fact, look, as you're as a business approaching your teen years, what do you want to be when you grow up? What does the future hold for you when you're old enough to vote and drink in bars legally as an organisation? Too much. Where is the future for Tri Payments? What's coming next?
I think we've got the conversation that we've had today around analytics and understanding the transaction is one that we're internally focusing on. We'd like to deliver data value to our customers. It's not just about being a payments processor. Ultimately, we'd like to become a data-centric business. We have aspirations for multi-regional processing, so hopefully watch this space. If I can sort my act out and get through my inbox, then we'll get there as quickly as we can. But fundamentally, it's to ensure that the customers we have today are serviced as well as they can. It's a very political answer, this, isn't it? Marketing will be happy. But ultimately, we want to continue doing a bit the same. I think a processor has a real opportunity to become a nucleus within the parties it works with, and we plan to really double down on that and try and develop a community feel within the ecosystem.
Brilliant. Well, look, Alex, I always enjoy our catch-ups, and I was particularly looking forward to this one. I'm really excited to hear about what you've got going on, and we're really, really excited about our partnership with you, actually. So looking forward to what we've got going ahead. Just to wrap up, how do people get hold of you if they like what you hear and like the fact that they've got the opportunity to do business with a teenage company? How
Yeah.
do they get hold of you?
Yeah. So, well, firstly, thank you very much, and we're obviously also extremely excited about our partnership. I think so. I'm going to say Twitter at Tribe Payments, because that's what tech companies should lead with. Obviously, tribepayments.com, and I think you'll find us under Tribe Payments at LinkedIn. And I am on Twitter at Alex Reddish, but I'm much more boring. So I'd start with the business first.
Don't agree with that. Alex, it's been a real pleasure. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Have a good afternoon.
Thanks a lot. Cheers. Bye bye.
Cheers.